The night was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels sacred, like something is about to be remembered. Elaine Morgan, 45 years old, had just tucked in her teenage son. The house in Columbus, Ohio, was finally still. She poured herself a glass of chamomile tea, lit the lavender candle she always kept on the windowsill, and sat down in the armchair by the fireplace. Autumn leaves rustled softly outside, but inside, her mind carried a weight she couldn't name. For years, Elaine had experienced the same dream. A wooden ship. Fog so thick it felt alive. Cold waves rising over the deck. And the sound, the unbearable groaning of timber, breaking apart every time she dreamed it. She was there barefoot, soaked, gasping for breath as the sea pulled her under. And every time she woke, her pillow was damp with tears. Not sweat, tears. She had never been on a shipwreck, had never lived near the coast, couldn't even swim well. But the panic in those dreams was real, visceral, as if her body remembered something her mind did not. She never told anyone, not her therapist, not even her sister. Who would believe her? That a suburban mom, who once worked in human resources and now sold essential oils online, was being haunted, not by a trauma in this life, but by something older. But on that particular night, something changed. She had come across an old book at a thrift shop earlier that week. The spine was cracked, the pages yellowed. It was called The Sleeping Prophet. She hadn't planned to buy it, but the name on the cover, Edgar Cayce, seemed to pull her in, like it knew her. That night, with the fire dimming and the tea gone cold, she read a single line aloud from the book. Dreams are not echoes of the day. They are whispers from the soul. She whispered it again, this time slower. Elaine didn't know it then, but that night would become a turning point, the beginning of a journey inward, not to find answers in logic, but to feel the truth in her bones when she fell asleep. The same dream came, but this time it ended differently. She was still on the ship. The waves still towered, but just as the water rushed in, she saw a face, a man's face familiar, loving, whispering her name. And then, silence, but not terror, peace. When she awoke, her breath was steady, her hands calm. For the first time in 15 years, she didn't cry. She just stared out the window at the golden red leaves. And for a reason she couldn't explain, she smiled. That morning, she began writing it down. Not just the dream, but the feeling, the afterglow, the questions, the strange knowing that this wasn't fantasy, it was memory. Tonight, you'll meet women like Elaine. You may even see yourself in her, because maybe, just maybe, your soul, too, is speaking in dreams, and all it's waiting for is for you to finally listen. Most people dismiss dreams the moment they wake up. They roll over, reach for their phone, sip their coffee, and step into the rush of the day, leaving behind a world that was whispering to them just moments before. A world that perhaps held answers to questions they've been carrying for a lifetime. But Edgar Cayce saw things differently. He believed that dreams were not meaningless flickers of the mind, but messages from the soul, direct communications from a deeper, timeless self. In reading after reading, Cayce described dreams as the soul's language, filled with symbols, memories, and fragments of other lives we've lived but forgotten. To him, the dream states were sacred. It was a liminal space somewhere between waking and eternity, where the walls between this life and the many that came before quietly fall away. And through that opening, something eternal begins to speak. In one of his trance readings, Cayce said, "The dream is the shadow of the real, that which the soul sees not with eyes, but with knowing." Think about that. What if that strange recurring dream you've had for years of a city you've never been to, a name you don't recognize, or a face you somehow know is not just random? What if it's a fragment of something real, a memory, a wound, a gift from the past, still pulsing in your presence? Cayce didn't just offer poetic language. He gave real, specific examples of people who came to him confused by their dreams, only to discover that they were seeing past lives. playing out in vivid symbols. A woman who dreamt of dancing barefoot in an ancient temple and later discovered she had a lifelong fear of being indoors. A man who dreamed of war and awoke with unexplained scars on his psyche that no modern therapy could quite heal until he faced the memory not from this life, but another. According to Cayce, these dreams serve a purpose. They aren't just stories, they're reminders of who we were, why we came back, and what we still haven't healed. And here's the truth no one told us growing up. The soul remembers, not in the way the mind does, with names, places, and numbers, but with sensations, with symbols, with patterns that keep repeating until we finally pay attention. When Elaine read those words for the first time, the dream is the shadow of the real something shifted in her. It was as if the dream that had haunted her for years finally had a place, a meaning, a reason. Maybe it wasn't here to terrify her. Maybe it came to wake her up. So tonight, I want to ask you something simple, but sacred. What have your dreams been trying to tell you all along? And what would happen if you finally listened? There's a reason why some dreams don't fade when the sun rises. They linger. They pull at your chest like a song you used to know but forgot how to sing. They leave behind a scent, a sound, a feeling too real to be fiction. Edgar Cayce believed those dreams were different. He said they were echoes, fragments of lifetimes your soul once lived, still vibrating in your being, waiting to be understood. In this part of our journey, we won't just list 12 types of dreams. We'll walk through them slowly, like stepping through the corridors of a forgotten house that your spirit once called home, grouped into 4 sacred themes. Each dream type reveals not just who you were, but who you are becoming. Group I, dreams of remembrance, dreams that unlock forgotten places, faces, and abilities. 1. The stranger you instantly know. Have you ever met someone in a dream, a total stranger, but felt an overwhelming sense of love, betrayal, or familiarity? Cayce said those weren't strangers at all. They were souls from your past, people you once held, fought, or lost. In the dream world, the mask of this life falls away, and the truth of connection reveals itself. Historical lives remembered. Some women dream of dancing in temples of Egypt, weaving tapestries in Scottish castles, or walking stone streets under Roman skies. They wake with tears, or a longing they can't explain. Cayce taught that if you feel nostalgia for a time you never lived, your soul probably did. 3. The hidden talent that appears in dreams. Imagine dreaming of painting landscapes with mastery, though you've never held a brush, or speaking a language you've never studied fluently, confidently. These are soul memories. Cayce said, they often precede awakenings in real life, as if the soul is whispering, it's time to remember who you are. Group 2, dreams of karmic healing, where past wounds come to be released, not relived. 4. Reliving the wound to heal it. Elaine once dreamt she was drowning, over and over again, but in her final dream, a hand reached out to save her, and it was her own. When you resolve something painful in a dream that once felt stuck, your soul is closing a chapter. 5. Forgiveness across time. Some dreams bring us face to face with those who hurt us or whom we've hurt, not to punish, but to release. Cayce called these redemptive dreams. They often lead to emotional shifts in waking life, healing phobias, easing lifelong anxieties, or ending toxic patterns. 6. Dreams that reflect ancestral pain. You may dream through the eyes of someone long gone, a grandmother you never met, a child lost generations ago. Cayce taught that we often reincarnate within soul families, and the pain they carried may still echo through us. These dreams are not curses, they're invitations to end the cycle. Group 3, dreams of spiritual connection, where guidance is given in the language of the soul. 7. Encounters with spiritual guides. There are dreams where we are not alone, where a luminous being sits beside us, speaks to us, or simply looks into our eyes with knowing. You wake changed. Lighter. Casey insisted these weren't imaginary. They were real visitations. And if the message felt clearer than anything you could have invented, it probably wasn't you who said it. On the Akashic visions. Sometimes dreams don't feel like dreams. They feel like downloads, a flood of images, lives, choices, timelines all at once. These are Akashic dreams. They don't come often, but when they do, they mark you. You may not understand them right away, but your soul does. Group IV, Dreams Beyond Time, where your soul speaks in the language of destiny and eternity. 9. The Calling Revealed. Have you ever dreamed of doing something you've never done, but felt born to do? Leading others, healing, creating. These dreams often precede life changes. Cayce said the soul remembers its vocation long before the mind catches up. Then, parallel lives. You never lived but could have. Sometimes you dream of living in another city, with another partner, another life. Not fantasy, but something that feels real. These are glimpses, Cayce said, of alternate paths. Not to confuse you, but to help you see that you have always had the power to choose. 11. Glimpses of future incarnations. Strange landscapes, transparent bodies, sky cities, or timeless deserts. These aren't just symbols. They may be what's next. Cayce reminded us. Time is not linear to the soul, and sometimes it lets you look forward. 12. The Great Remembering, Cosmic Consciousness. The rarest dream, the one you never forget. You dissolve, you become everything, and in that silence, you know that you've always been. That death isn't real. That love is the only law. Cayce said, these are the dreams of the awakened soul, and when they come, you never fear again. Elaine didn't know it back then, but her drowning dream was type 4, and the man who whispered her name, she would dream of him again in a Roman villa, and once more, in a hospital room in 1917, always by water, always leaving, until she finally said, I'm not afraid anymore. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how to recognize these dreams in your own life, how to tell a true soul message from just a passing cloud of the mind. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it, and the soul will begin to speak louder. Elaine had the dream again, but this time it wasn't the shipwreck. She was on a battlefield. Mud clung to her boots. Smoke burned her throat. She was holding the body of a young soldier, lifeless, heavy, and for reasons she couldn't explain. She knew it was her brother. Not in this life, but in some other one. As the sky turned amber and the air grew still, someone approached an enemy. But instead of fear or rage, she felt an overwhelming wave of sorrow. And then, forgiveness. When she woke, there were no tears, just stillness, and the quiet sense that something inside her had finally exhaled, reliving the wound to set it free. Some dreams return over and over, falling from great heights, running from someone who never catches you, drowning beneath dark waters. They haunt not to harm, but to reveal what's unresolved. According to Edgar Cayce, the soul stores memory in feeling, and sometimes healing only begins when you feel it again. These dreams come when you're ready, ready to remember, ready to let go. The moment forgiveness enters. In karmic dreams, transformation happens not through control, but through surrender. You might find yourself embracing someone who once betrayed you, or hearing the words, I forgive you, from a face you barely recall. These aren't inventions of the sleeping brain. They're rehearsals of release moments when the soul rewrites the script it's been carrying for lifetimes. People who experience these dreams often describe sudden peace in relationships that were once painful, the end of a chronic fear with no medical cause, a shift in how they see the world and themselves. Forgiveness in the dream becomes forgiveness in life. Dreams that belong to generations before you. Sometimes You dream through someone else's eyes. You're a mother hiding her children during war. You're a girl on a train, leaving behind everything she's ever known. You're an old man writing a letter he'll never send. You wake with questions. Why did this feel so real? Why did it hurt? Edgar Cayce explained, these may be ancestral dreams. He believed that we often incarnate within the same soul groups, and in doing so, we carry the emotional echoes of those who came before. These dreams may offer a chance not just to remember their pain, but to break the pattern they could not. How you know a dream has healed you. You wake up, and something is different. You don't flinch when you hear a name. You reach out to someone you've avoided for years. You walk through your day with a softness that wasn't there before. The healing doesn't always come with clarity. It comes with peace, with a loosening in the chest, with a knowing that whatever was heavy no longer belongs to you. Elaine described it this way. I didn't need to understand it. I just knew it had ended. Not all wounds are visible. Not all healing happens in daylight. Sometimes the most powerful moments of release arrive quietly, while you sleep, with no witnesses, no applause, and no need for explanation. Just you and your soul, finally remembering how to come home. It began with a garden. Elaine stood beneath a fig tree, sunlight spilling through its wide leaves. The ground was soft under her feet, and ahead of her, an old woman waited, dressed in white, silent, kind. Her eyes were the color of dusk. Elaine didn't speak. She didn't need to. She knew this woman, though she had no name for her. The woman reached out, took Elaine's hand, and led her through a narrow hallway made of wood and light. At the end of the hall was a door. No knob, no lock. It opened on its own. Inside were shelves, thousands of them. Each held a single book, and on the spine of each book was a name. Elaine stepped forward. The woman handed her one volume. Her own name was on the cover. Meeting the Guide. You already know. Some dreams don't come from memory or fear. They come from guidance. Edgar Cayce described these dreams as visitations from spiritual teachers, soul companions, or higher versions of ourselves all arriving when we're finally ready to receive them. They may not speak in words, but you'll recognize them by their presence. A calm that silences every thought, a gaze that sees you beyond your shame, a feeling that you are not alone and never have been. These are the guides of the soul, and when they appear, they often leave behind messages that shift your waking life. You're safe now. It's time to let go. The door will open when you stop pushing. Dreams from the bloodline, the echoes of those who came before. You may find yourself dreaming through the life of someone who lived long before you. A woman on the frontier, a man building a cabin, a child hiding in a barn during a storm. You feel their hunger, their hope, their loneliness. You might even hear a name, and later discover it in your own family tree. Cayce believed these were ancestral connections, not just metaphorical, but energetic, because your soul often returns to the same circles through birth, blood, or resonance, and when one generation is ready to heal what another could not, the dream comes not as a burden, but as a bridge, the library of the soul, dreams of the Akashic records. Some dreams don't feel like stories. They feel like downloads, a series of lifetimes unfolding all at once. Moments that never happened in this life, yet feel entirely yours. Colours, symbols, numbers, and a sense of deep order behind the seeming chaos of your journey. This is the Akashic field, what Cayce described as the memory of God. Dreams of the Akashic often include walking through a vast hall of scrolls or books, being shown scenes from other lifetimes, often guided by a luminous being, feeling as if you suddenly understand everything, but lose the details upon waking. Yet the feeling remains, and so does the shift in perspective. You begin to see your pain as part of a pattern, your gifts as earned, your life not as random, but written with your own hand. Elaine never saw that woman again, but she kept the dream close. She wrote down every detail of the tree, the hallway. The way the book felt warm in her palms, and even though she couldn't remember what the pages said, she no longer needed to. Something had already been passed on. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore the dreams that reach even further, beyond the past, beyond the blood, into other timelines, and future lives you haven't yet lived, but your soul already remembers. Elaine found herself walking through a city made of light. There were no streets, only pathways of floating stone that moved beneath her feet. The sky shimmered like water. She could hear music without sound, and in the distance, she saw herself not as she was, but as she might one day become, older, wiser, glowing from within. They didn't speak, but they understood, and when she awoke, the fear of growing older, of time slipping away, had vanished. In its place, a quiet reverence, glimpses of what's to come, dreams of future lives. Edgar Cayce taught that time is not a straight line, but a spiral, and in deep states of dreaming, the soul can rise above the spiral to glimpse potential futures. Not prophecies, not certainties, but possibilities shaped by the evolution of your consciousness. You may dream of a world where peace is normal, not earned, of technologies that respond to thoughts, of yourself teaching, healing, or leading long after this lifetime. These dreams often feel translucent, symbolic. They don't speak in literal images, but in patterns and a sense of becoming. They are reminders. Your journey does not end here. Lives not lived but deeply felt. Have you ever woken from a dream and thought, that could have been my life? You had a different partner, a different child, a different name, but the emotion was just as real. Cayce believed these were dreams from parallel timelines, lives your soul might have lived, or is living, in another layer of reality. They may come when you're at a crossroads, when your soul wants to show you what you've chosen, what you walked away from, and what still lives within you. These dreams aren't to confuse, they're to empower, because they reveal this truth. You are never trapped. Choice is sacred and ongoing, the rare dream of wholeness, cosmic consciousness. There are dreams that can't be described, only remembered through feeling. In them, you're not a person, you're light, you're sound, you're everything and nothing. You float through stars, you merge with oceans. You remember what it's like to not be separate. Cayce called these cosmic dreams rare moments when the veil between you and source disappears, where the soul remembers itself not as a name, a role, or even a history, but as a spark of something eternal. Those who have these dreams often say, I no longer fear death. I felt more alive than ever. I remembered where I came from. Elaine had one just once. She saw a single white wave rising in the black of space, and she was both the wave and the ocean. When she woke, she cried, not from sadness, but from recognition. If you've had dreams like these, you may not need to understand them. You only need to receive them. Let them shape the silence inside you, because sometimes the deepest truth has arrived not as answers, but as remembering. In the next part, we'll shift from dreaming to doing. How do we work with these dreams once they arrive? How do we record them, interpret them, and live them, so they don't fade with the morning light? Elaine once dreamt of sitting at a kitchen table in a house she had never seen. The wallpaper was faded blue. The light came in from the left. There was a woman across from her, her hair in soft curls, her hands aged but warm. They didn't speak, but Elaine felt something ancient pass between them. When she awoke, her heart was full, and for the first time in months, she felt safe. Nothing dramatic had happened, but something in her had shifted gently, like the tide. What makes a soul-level dream different? Not all dreams are created equal. Some are echoes of daily stress, fragments of memory reorganizing themselves in sleep, but others carry a different frequency. Edgar Cayce described them as vibrationally deeper, emotionally richer, and symbolically intelligent. He said they often feel like you've just come back from somewhere real. Here are some ways to recognize a soul-level dream. You wake up with emotion, not confusion, sometimes tears, sometimes awe, sometimes peace. The dream has a coherence, a feeling that it meant something. Even if you don't yet know what, you remember details you've never seen before. An old city's layout, a dialect you've never studied, the name of someone long gone. The feeling stays with you throughout the day, like perfume that lingers in your skin. If you've ever said, that didn't feel like a dream, it probably wasn't. The emotional signature, more important than the plot. Cayce taught that the content of a dream, the setting, the characters, even the actions may be symbolic, borrowed, or blurred, but the emotional energy behind it, that is always real. If you woke up from a dream and felt a sadness you couldn't explain, felt a love stronger than anything you've known, felt clarity about something you've wrestled with for years, then your soul was speaking. He called this the soul's compass, the ability to feel your way toward meaning. Trust it, because your heart often knows what your mind hasn't caught up with yet. Physical markers after a soul dream. Some people wake from these dreams with a flutter in their chest, a heat in their hands, an overwhelming urge to write, to call someone, or to walk in silence. Others report waking at the same time every night, often between 3 UO and 4 AM. When Cayce said the veil between dimensions is thinnest, hearing a name or phrase repeating in their mind, feeling as if they'd travelled a great distance without moving. These aren't accidents. They're evidence that your consciousness has reached beyond the physical. Why this matters. Recognizing soul-level dreams isn't just about insight. It's about invitation. When you learn to spot these dreams, they become more frequent. Your soul begins to trust that you're listening. And the messages come clearer. The healing becomes deeper. The guidance becomes personal. Elaine started to write hers down, at first in fragments, then in full pages. And over time, a story emerged not just of who she was in this life, but of who she had always been. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how to capture these dreams before they fade, and how to build a sacred space around them, so their meaning can unfold like a letter written across lifetimes. Elaine began with a notebook from a grocery store. Nothing fancy, just soft pages, a navy blue cover, and a pen that glided smoothly across the lines. She placed it on her nightstand. Every night before sleep, she whispered softly, "Show me what I need to see." Every morning, before reaching for her phone, she reached for the notebook. At first, her entries were scattered. Something about water, a woman with silver hair, the word return. Oh, but within 2 weeks, a pattern began to emerge. Not just in the stories, but in her soul. Why Edgar Cayce insisted you keep a dream journal. Cayce believed that the act of remembering a dream wasn't just psychological, it was spiritual training. Each time you write one down, you're telling your higher self, "I'm listening." Over time, the symbols grow clearer, the details stay longer, and your soul begins to speak louder through patterns, repetition, and timing. A journal becomes more than memory. It becomes a map, how to build the ritual, to make dream work part of your life. Cayce recommended creating a sacred rhythm, not rigid, but consistent. Here's how. Place your journal and pen beside your bed each night. Don't rely on memory dreams fade fast before sleeping. Set an intention, something gentle, like, "Tonight, I open myself to healing," or "Show me what my soul wants me to remember." Upon waking, stay still, don't speak. Don't move quickly, let the dream resurface before it slips away. Write down everything, even if it feels fragmented or strange. Emotions, colors, words, physical sensations all matter. If you only recall a feeling, write the feeling. I felt safe. I felt like I knew the person. I didn't want to wake up. Over time, these pieces will stitch themselves together into something you'll recognize. Spotting symbols, timing, and soul patterns. In Cayce's dream work, nothing is random. Recurring places often point to past life locations. Unfamiliar languages may signal soul memories. Repeated numbers or symbols like the number 7, or a bird that keeps appearing may hold specific spiritual messages tied to your life path. Even timing holds meaning. Dreams on your birthday, during seasonal transitions, or right before major life changes often carry transformational energy. Dreams that wake you around 3:33 a.m., known as the soul window hour, may contain direct guidance from the spirit realm. Reading backwards, the magic of retrospective insight. The power of the dream journal is not just in writing, but in reading back. After a month, go back to week 1. You may see a symbol repeating in different forms, a person appearing under different names, an emotion that evolved from fear into peace. This backward glance often reveals what Cayce called the thread of soul intention. It helps you not just understand the dream, but why it came when it did. Elaine discovered that her water dreams always came before moments of major release, quitting a job, forgiving her father, letting go of control. Water, for her, meant surrender. The dream had known before she did. This practice is not about perfection. It's about presence. A few lines each day, a few breaths before sleep, a few sacred minutes with the voice within. In time, you'll realize your soul has been writing to you all along. You were just learning how to read. In the next part, we'll explore a sacred technique Cayce often taught. Dream incubation, a method for asking specific questions before sleep and letting the universe answer, one dream at a time. Elaine stopped waiting. She began asking. One night, after writing in her journal, she whispered a simple question before falling asleep. What am I still holding on to that no longer serves me? She lit a candle, sat in silence, breathed deeply in through the nose, out through the heart, then lay down without expectation, only trust. That night, she dreamed of her childhood home. Every room was empty, except for one small cabinet. She opened it and saw herself at 10 years old, holding a box. Inside, an old photo, an unsent letter, and a necklace her mother once gave her. As she reached out to the child, the figure disappeared, but the box remained in her hands. The next morning, she knew she was ready to let go. And the necklace, she found it tucked away in a long-forgotten drawer. What is dream incubation? Edgar Cayce saw this practice as a sacred conversation between you and the higher part of your soul, not to demand answers, but to create space for truth to reveal itself. The question is the seed. Sleep is the soil, and the dream is the flower blooming from within. 3 steps to practice dream incubation. Step 1. Prepare your inner space. 15 minutes before sleep. Turn off all digital devices. Sit or lie down in soft light. Breathe slowly 4 counts in. 6 counts out. Place your hand on your chest. Whisper gently, I am ready to receive guidance from my soul. If you wish, light a candle or use calming scents like sandalwood or lavender. These small rituals signal to your subconscious that you're entering sacred space. Step 2. Ask the question. Keep the question simple, honest, pressure-free. Here are a few you might try. What lesson am I meant to learn right now? How can I begin healing the fear I carry? Show me the purpose of my soul. I wish to connect with my spiritual guide. Write your question in your journal. Close your eyes. Surrender. No need to try to dream, just open to receive. Step 3. Record everything. Don't rush to interpret. The dream may come that night, or days later, or in fragments, like puzzle pieces forming a picture. When you wake, write everything, even the strange, the subtle, the seemingly meaningless. Sometimes the dream doesn't answer the question directly. It transforms the very question you carried. Edgar Cayce advised, don't analyze too quickly. Let the message sink in like rain soaking into the soil. What if no dream comes? That is also an answer. Perhaps you are not ready, or the soul is still preparing the ground within. Try again the next night with a softer heart, a gentler question. The soul doesn't respond to force. It responds to sincerity. Listen, act, align. Elaine set aside one night each week for dream incubation. She called it her soul appointment. Each time, she would write one question, then wait in silence. Sometimes a vision came, sometimes a feeling, but always something moved. One night, she dreamed of planting seeds in a frozen field. She didn't understand. 2 weeks later, she received a phone call from the daughter who had been estranged from her for 7 years. They cried. They began again. Dream incubation is not a mystical trick. It is connection between your waking self and the deepest part of you, the part that has never been asleep. Elaine began treating her bedroom differently, not just as a place to rest, but as a sanctuary. She removed the stack of unopened mail from the nightstand, put away the phone by 9 p, brought in a small bowl of dried lavender, and once a week she lit a beeswax candle, just one, as if to say, I'm ready to listen. Something shifted, not immediately, but night after night, her dreams grew clearer. Not louder, just more certain. The bedroom is a threshold, not a storage room. According to Edgar Cayce, the environment in which you sleep shapes the quality of your dream life. Clutter, noise, and overstimulation weigh on the subconscious like fog, but are still. Intentional space clears the path so the soul can rise. To prepare a sacred space for dreaming, keep the room cool around 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Dim the lights 1 hour before bed. Let your body enter stillness. Avoid screens, TV, phone, tablet for at least 30 minutes before sleep. Let the mind release the outside world. Remove objects that carry emotional weight, unpaid bills, harsh books, anything broken or neglected. Surround yourself with textures and items that soothe, soft fabrics, calm colors, natural materials. This isn't about aesthetic, it's about frequency. The soul responds to what feels like home. The power of ritual, even the simplest gestures, when repeated with presence, become sacred. Consider creating a small ritual to honor your sleep space. Light a candle, watch it flicker for 1 minute in silence. Place a crystal or meaningful object under your pillow. Whisper a phrase, something personal, gentle. I am open to what wants to come through tonight. Let only what serves my highest path remain. Ritual is not superstition. It's permission for the unseen to enter gently. Sound, scent, and breath. Allies of the dreamer. Some women find that sound helps loosen the veil. A soft playlist of ambient tones, tuned to 432 Hz. A white noise machine, mimicking waves or wind. A recorded voice reading poetry or spiritual texts, just enough to soften the mind. Others find healing in scent. Lavender for calm, frankincense for spiritual grounding, sandalwood to deepen intuitive clarity. Place a few drops on your wrists, or on a cotton sachet near your bed. Let the body associate the scent with safe passage into dream. And finally, breath. Inhale through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale through the mouth for 6. Repeat 3 times. Let the body feel what it has forgotten. Stillness is not emptiness. It is invitation, letting the dream in. You do not force a sacred dream. You make room for it. When your body feels held, when your mind feels softened, when your heart feels unguarded, the dream begins its descent. Some nights will be quiet. Some will bring a single image. Some will bring a memory you didn't know you missed. None of it is wasted. Every moment of presence becomes a thread, and one morning, perhaps sooner than you think, you will wake not with a dream, but with a knowing. Elaine once dreamed of a garden blooming in snow. When she woke, there was no explanation. But the heaviness she had carried in her chest for months was gone. She smiled, lit her candle, and whispered, "Thank you." Elaine had dreamed of a stranger beneath a fig tree. Night after night, he returned, sometimes in silence, sometimes whispering words she couldn't quite recall. But one morning, she wrote down something. He said just one sentence. "You don't have to be who you were in order to become who you are." She read it again and again, then stood up, made tea, opened her laptop, and wrote the email she'd been avoiding for 6 years. An apology, a beginning, and maybe something else, the first breath of becoming. Why the dream was never meant to stay asleep. Edgar Cayce often said, "It is not enough to remember. You must live what the soul gives you." Dreams are not just visions. They are invitations to forgive someone while awake, not just in sleep, to pursue the craft that called you in another life, to step into the courage you glimpsed behind your closed eyes. When we act on the messages we receive, we build a bridge between the seen and the unseen, between the eternal self and the woman making coffee at 7 a.m. in her robe. They are not two different people. They are finally becoming one, listening without needing to understand. Not every dream comes with clarity. Some bring symbols you don't recognize. Some leave you with feelings that have no name. Still, they are asking to be honored. Honor looks like writing the dream down, even if it doesn't make sense. Sitting with the emotion for 5 quiet minutes, letting that image become a question that lives in you, not a riddle to solve. Sometimes transformation doesn't come from answers. It comes from presence, choosing the small act that aligns with the message. Ask yourself gently, what would it look like to live the wisdom I received? What one choice today could honor the path shown in that dream? Maybe it's calling the person who appeared in your sleep. Maybe it's walking a different road on your morning route. Maybe it's smiling at a stranger who felt familiar. Maybe it's standing still in silence and finally listening. The soul rarely asks for drama. It asks for truth. The dream becomes you. Elaine's final entry in her journal, 1 year after she started writing, read, "I no longer dream of drowning. I dream of swimming, and sometimes of flying. I used to wait for answers. Now I wait for silence, because that's where everything begins. If you've come this far, you know something now, not in theory, but in your bones, that your dreams were never random, that your soul has been whispering, and that you are starting to remember. So tonight, when the lights are low and the world quiets, close your eyes, breathe, and ask, what is it that I already know, but have forgotten? Then sleep, and let your soul reply. Dreams are not for escape. They are for return." Edgar Cayce.